Hey, what's up everybody? This is Super501 and today I want to go over some new information we have gotten for Diablo 4, namely that there is going to be an Endgame closed beta coming up, and we also got some new information for Endgame content that's going to be tested in that beta. Now the beta test will be on all platforms, so on PC and all the different consoles it's going to be released on. It is going to be specifically focused on testing Endgame systems, and it will be a closed test with an NDA, so anybody that gets in won't be allowed to talk about it, stream it, or release any footage or information about it. And it seems like it's going to be a bit of a smaller test, and they're saying they want to invite people that have a lot of playtime in the end game of Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. They didn't really elaborate on how they're going to be choosing people from that criteria, but they do go over how you can easily sign up. So if you at least want a chance to be able to get invited to this, I would check out the official post on the Diablo 4 website. Now the thing I mainly want to go over is the new information we have gotten on endgame systems that's being tested in this beta. And this is specifically labeled as closed endgame beta offerings. So this does not mean that this is all of the endgame systems that are gonna be in the game when it releases. This is specifically labeled as stuff for the beta. So there's the possibility of being other endgame systems once the game is released, but this is probably majority of the stuff, but also not all of it, because specifically there aren't any mention of the world bosses being tested, which seem like they would probably play some part in the endgame. So first off, we have something completely new that I've never heard a single thing about, and I don't think they've ever talked about before, called Helltide. While roaming Sanctuary on foot or atop your trusty steed, be aware of your surroundings, for you might find yourself caught in a Helltide. This is a new region-wide event that becomes available to heroes only once they have reached World Tier 3 Nightmare difficulty. In a Helltide, the servants of Lilith are empowered, having their difficulty increased, but dropping loot worthy of that danger. Her mightiest minions are also out in greater force, and the very ground of Sanctuary as you know it has been morphed by the surge in demonic activity. As you cull the monstrosities inhabiting a Helltide, they'll potentially drop cinders, a new currency that can be spent to open Helltide chests scattered throughout the respective region. These chests boast bountiful boons exclusive to a singular item slot, such as torso, legs, or two-handed weapon. But be wary in hoarding your cinders. Should you fall in battle, they'll drop and must be reclaimed. So there are many things I want to go over with this, but first off, the Helltide event itself seems pretty cool. And this is a region-wide, so this is going to be a massive area in which this event is actually taking place. This is going to be a large chunk of the overall map that's going to be taken over by one of these Helltides. The whole zone is going to be changed, specifically morphed by the surge in demonic activity. So it seems like the landscape is probably going to be changing up to a certain degree. All the enemies, or at least Lilith's servants, so maybe only all the demons, not exactly sure on that, but all of these enemies are going to be empowered and they're going to drop probably much better loot. And it seems like if you have not unlocked World Tier 3, which is Nightmare, you won't even see any of these. Most likely if a Helltide event happens, that would be a different instance of that region, to where players that don't have that difficulty wouldn't even be able to see it, because it wouldn't make sense that you would actually be able to see that and enter like a Helltide zone or something if you weren't able to really partake in it. Now, as you're killing these enemies, you're going to be getting another currency called cinders, and these can be used to open these Helltide chests. Now, how it's explained, I'm not sure if these Helltide chests are only going to be there when the Helltide event is active, or if these Helltide chests are going to just be around the map even when the event is not active. Not sure on that, but it is pretty cool that a really big event like this also has its own currency that you can build up and go use on these chests. And I'm also not sure what they're meaning by the powerful boons that you get from these chests, and saying these boons are exclusive to a specific slot. And they give a few examples, but I'm assuming it's a boon for one specific, so maybe only a two-handed weapon, or only legs, or only a chest piece, or something like that. Now in my mind, this can mean probably one of two things. Either that chest probably has like a symbol over it that it'll only give you like a two-handed weapon or two-handed weapons or something like that, or it somehow gives you some buff to have a higher chance of getting these different items. If I had to bet, I would say that opening that specific chest, it'll tell you beforehand that this is like a chest chest that gives gloves or a chest that gives legs. So you can go and choose to find a chest to use your cinders on to where you can target a specific item, which can also help just gearing in general in the game to allow you to have a more targeted way finding a specific loot type. And then also you have to be careful with hoarding your cinders, because if you fall in battle, they'll drop and have to be reclaimed. Now, I'm assuming these can't be claimed by other players. It sounds more like this will be kind of something like a Souls game where when you die, you have to go back to your body to reclaim currency you've lost from dying. It sounds like it would be something like that, which I think does add an interesting gameplay dynamic to this cinder currency. Next up, we have Nightmare Dungeons. We've crafted a difficulty of Diablo dungeons straight out of your nightmares. Nightmare difficulty dungeons in Diablo 4 unlock upon locating your first Nightmare sigil. Each sigil corresponds to a specific dungeon somewhere within Sanctuary. These sigils will add special modifiers to their dungeon, increasing the ferocity of the Hell Servants waiting for you inside and providing higher rarity loot. Through completing Nightmare dungeons, you will recover even more powerful sigils, introducing increasingly death-defying modifications and challenges for you to overcome. As you progress into higher and more challenging world tiers, new Nightmare dungeons will become available for you to explore. Now, I've gone over this system before, but essentially these are keyed versions of these dungeons, almost like a more Diablo-fied version of Mythic Plus dungeons from World of Warcraft, except there are over 150 dungeons in Diablo 4, or at least there will be on launch. So there will be a lot more variety, and they have specifically talked about this system before, that they want you to pick and choose the Nightmare dungeons you're doing. So if you get a sigil or a key for a Nightmare dungeon and it has modifiers that aren't good for your build, they want you to not have to go do that. You can either throw that sigil away or just go throw it into your stash and not have to run it with that build. And also with dungeons at a base level, some dungeons, or maybe every dungeon, is also going to have a higher chance to drop specific items. They specifically mentioned this as, say, a dungeon could drop helmets more, and we don't know how expansive that's going to be, if it'll maybe even go to, say, maybe specific set items have a higher chance here, or a specific legendary chest has a higher chance here. Not sure, but that is something that will play into Nightmare dungeons. And it seems that not every dungeon is going to be available for you to make it a Nightmare dungeon at the start. You'll have to unlock higher and higher world tiers to unlock more and more dungeons to be able to turn them into Nightmare dungeons. And I think as an endgame system, this is much better than Rifts. You actually have to go to these dungeons. They're a place out in the world. Personally, I think that feels much better than just clicking a portal and you enter a portal and it's a completely randomized set of tiles and enemies. These dungeons are going to be more grounded in that actual dungeon. Even though they're still going to have some random elements, it's not going to just be a completely randomized set of tiles and enemies. The dungeon is going to feel like that actual dungeon. Next up, we have Whispers of the Dead. The Tree of Whispers has a few loose ends to tie and needs your help settling the score. Displayed on your map, players will see various whispers scattered throughout Sanctuary. Complete the associated task and be met with experience, gold, and grim favors. The number of grim favors you receive from completing a whisper varies, but once you've collected 10 grim favors from the dearly departed, they can be exchanged at the Tree of Whispers for a bevy of loot and experience to reward your heroics. The types of whispers a player sees on their map rotates frequently, with new ones becoming available throughout the day for you to track. Each whisper will offer both a different set of rewards and experience for completing it. Traditionally, the Whispers of the Dead system does not become available to players until after completing a specific chapter of the main questline. For the closed beta, players will be able to engage with the system right out of the gate. And I've talked about this system before, but we do get some new information here. So it seems like instead of picking up objectives from some place, that this is actually just going to be something that is on your map as shown objectives once you complete a certain part of the main quest line, because this is a more endgame focused system. Completing these different objectives will give you a varying amount of gold, experience, and these grim favors. Once you get 10 grim favors, you can go to the Tree of Whispers, use it, and you'll get your reward, which will give you a bunch bunch of loot, experience, and it's not mentioned here, but this also has been said to be a main way in how you get nightmare sigils. So unless something is changed, this also is going to be a way to where you're going to be getting those nightmare sigils, or at least the starting nightmare sigils, because with the nightmare dungeons we just went over, it seems like you're going to be getting stronger versions of kind of the base sigils from completing nightmare dungeons. So most likely you'll be getting more base or lower difficulty sigils from the Tree of Whispers, along with all of the other loot, experience, and gold you would expect. Next up, we have Fields of Hatred. Born from their contempt of mortals, Mephisto has cursed specific areas of Sanctuary, transforming them into deadly Fields of Hatred. These designated PvP zones are the proving grounds for players looking to bring renown to their name through blood and zeal. While inside the Fields of Hatred, players can dispatch demons to collect Seeds of Hatred. To make use of these seeds, you'll need to bring them to the Altar of Extraction, where they can be smashed into red dust. Be quick to convert your seeds to red dust, as they are the desire of other players lurking in the zone. And if they are skilled enough to overtake you in combat, your Seeds of Hatred will be dropped. Going through the trouble of transforming Seeds of Hatred into red dust does have its merits. Red dust will not be lost if you are felled. It can also be spent at the PvP cosmetic and mount vendors for ornamental rewards. So this is the main PvP activity of Diablo 4. So these are part of the open world. There are different areas that are going to be Fields of Hatred. You will know when you're entering one, and it will tell you that this is a PvP zone. So killing any enemies out in the zone, opening chests, killing other players can give you these Seeds of Hatred. And these currencies have been renamed. So these are probably their official names for the launch version of the game now, but you'll be getting these Seeds of Hatred. These Seeds of Hatred are a currency that can be dropped if you die. Player kills you, you're going to drop all your seeds on the ground. But if you go to these Altars of Extraction and complete that, they will then be turned into red dust, which is a spendable currency at the PvP vendors. Now they've also gone over this before, and once you go to these Altars of Extraction, other players will be able to easily know that you are extracting your Seeds of Hatred, so they can come there and try to kill you before you get a chance to turn them into red dust. Now they only mention PvP vendors giving cosmetics and mounts, so only ornamental rewards, so non-gameplay related stuff. But when talking about this before, they also did mention being able to buy gear from these vendors, and specifically mentioning that this gear won't be better than anywhere else in the game. It'll just be another way to get gear. So not sure if they just didn't specify that in this, or if they're removing actually getting gear from Fields of Hatred. So not 100% certain on that. And then finally, we have Paragon Boards. Upon reaching level 50, the Paragon Boards, an endgame character growth system designed to empower your hero, unlocks. As your hero earns experience, they will receive Paragon points. These points can be spent to unlock new tiles, sockets, and even additional Paragon Boards to further customize your hero and ascend to new heights of power. Now I've gone over the system in other videos, and it's pretty complex. I'm surprised I actually gave the smallest amount of information on these, but essentially this is an endgame focused progression system. It's a big board. You spend points to go throughout it. Once you get to a gate or the edge of one of them, every board is a square, so it has 4 gates. Once you get to that gate and unlock it, you will then be able to place a new board into that gate, and you can spin the new boards in any direction you want. So you can start at whichever side of the square you want. All of the boards are class specific and they're not randomized. So they are specifically designed by developers, and we will be getting more and more boards with every season. So you will have a lot of options for combining different boards. You get main stats throughout these, different powers, resistances. There are sockets, which is mentioned here. And what you do with those is you get glyphs throughout playing the game, and once you unlock this socket, you put a glyph in that socket, and this glyph will have basically an aura around it, to where all the nodes in the aura will have bonus effects or have increased stats or increased bonuses from what they normally give. And also, as mentioned, these are unlocked at level 50. The max level in Diablo 4 is level 100, and Paragon Boards cap out at 200 points, so you will be getting 4 Paragon points for every level up to the cap of level 100, which will also cap out your Paragon Boards. Now, a lot of that isn't specified here, so some of that could have changed, but it seems like they're still going with that being the case. And that's all the information we got on all the endgame systems being tested. Like I mentioned, this doesn't mean this is all the endgame systems. I am a fan of a lot of the design of these endgame systems. This is obviously a lot more endgame than we got with Diablo 3, even just the amount of systems we're getting for the endgame. And like I mentioned, Helltide is the only thing here we've never heard about before, and I do really like the sound of the system. A whole region being overtaken and being corrupted, and you being able to just go through there and farm enemies, get a new currency, and open chests that seem to have specified loot types in them, seems like a really good addition into the endgame. But that's pretty much all I want to go over, so subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. If you comment below what you guys think about all of these endgame systems, and thanks for watching.